As we continue our discussion about what is going on in the EU and how the EU kind of inserts itself into our comparative politics course, what we're going to look at today is we're going to look at the history and membership of the EU. As a precursor to the EU, the EEC, or the European Economic Community, was formed in 1957 by the Treaty of Rome. The EEC supplemented national economies with a customs-free area that created a large trading space and allowed national firms to export more. So the idea behind this is that you are able to trade between countries with little to no tariffs, which allows you to maximize the profit that you're going to make as you trade. So this is going to greatly open up lots of trading avenues for lots of different countries, which therefore should provide them with an economic boost and allow them to develop better economies. And as your economy develops and becomes stronger, then it also allows you to be able to develop a better quality of life within that society. Countries did adopt common agricultural policies that stimulated modernization of agriculture. So different ways that farming had to take place, different types of subsidies and things like that to be able to promote certain types of agricultural behaviors. So all of these things were implemented to be able to try and develop these concepts. Because of the economic policies that were set forth by the EEC, unemployment dropped and discretionary spending increased. So unemployment drops because you now have greater trade avenues, which allows you to be able to produce more goods, which means that you need to hire more people to be able to produce those goods. And because you're selling more things and there are more people making money within jobs, there are more people paying taxes, which means that you now have more revenue coming into the government, which allows them to spend more. The EEC also expanded the use of social programs for healthcare, housing, pensions, and other public goods. After the EEC, you have something that's called the European Community that's created in 1965. This organization expanded beyond just the economic policies that were pushed by the EEC. So the EEC we look at as primarily an economic concept. With the EC, there's more that goes into it. As part of this organization, there was a push to unify how European countries would use nuclear power. These policies largely limited European countries to using nuclear energy for peaceful purposes, so it prohibited on a very large-scale basis the development of nuclear weapons. The EC was weakened by internal arguments, and a strong movement to strengthen the EC was not successful until the fall of the USSR in the 1980s. So after the fall of the EC, or the push to strengthen the EC, we have the development of what we would refer to as the European Union, or the EU. The EU was formed in 1991 by the Maastricht Treaty. The EU gained power over monetary policy, and monetary policy is what allows you to be able to control how much money exists in the economy, so to be able to either expand the money supply or to decrease the money supply. They had power over foreign affairs, how you deal largely with what other countries are doing. Dealing with national security, so the EU looks at national security on a very broad basis to be able to protect all member countries. The idea of transportation, policies that deal with how the environment is protected and preserved. The concept of justice, you can move beyond just the national courts that exist within the specific countries that are part of the EU to the European Court of Justice and things like that, as well as tourism. The goal of the EU was to coordinate economic policies, to coordinate a common currency, which is the euro, and then create a European Central Bank which would have power to manipulate things that go on within all of these different agencies in different countries, and to be able to manipulate the monetary supply, so the monetary policy or the money supply within those nations. There are a few countries that did choose to not adopt the euro, the United Kingdom being one of them, as they continued to use the pound. With the European Union, there were three pillars of authority that were established by the Maastricht Treaty. The first one was that trade on economic matters, including economic and monetary union into a single currency, and the creation of the European Central Bank, which are things that we kind of just talked about a second ago. They also incorporated the justice and home affairs, including policies over asylum. So if you are coming from another country outside of the European Union and you're filing for asylum, then it is the European Union policy that determines whether or not asylum will be given. The concept of border crossing, you can largely cross from European Union country to European Union country with very little sort of resistance to be able to do that. The concept of immigration, of who actually gets to join and live in an EU country, and a judicial cooperation on crime and terrorism. All right, common foreign and security policy was also adopted, and this included joint positions and actions and common defense policy. When we look at membership of the EU, as of 2013, 27 nations had joined the EU. It began with 6 members in 1957. The rapid integration of social, economic, and political processes have caused a lot of issues. These issues include organizational issues. You've got 27 countries that are part of the EU. Trying to get 27 countries with different languages and different backgrounds and things like that to all agree on the things that are going on within the EU has caused a lot of tension. This has especially been true as former communist nations have been allowed to join the EU. And the reason why there's a lot of controversy on that is because these countries generally have very poor economies, or much poorer economies than some of the more established EU nations. So that has caused some tension as far as how do you deal with their debt, how do you deal with their spending, are they meeting the requirements to be part of the EU, and things like that. So it's caused a lot of tension there. You also have the concept of Eastern European immigrants into the labor markets, because the Eastern European immigrants tend to have a lower education level because of language barriers, because of class issues and things like that. It's been hard for these people to really successfully integrate themselves into a lot of the more developed European nations. In order to become an EU country, you have to follow certain criteria and you have to meet certain standards. One is you have to have a stable and functioning democratic regime. If you're not a democracy, then you're not allowed to join. You must have a market-oriented economy. So that doesn't mean that you can't have any sort of government intervention. It just means that you have to have a market sense. You have to be able to allow the market to be able to make a lot of the decisions that take place. And you have to have a willingness to accept all EU laws and regulations. If you're unwilling to do any of those things, then you're not allowed to join the Union. Recent polls have shown that there is currently a decline in the amount of people who want to see the EU enlarge. This is largely due to the poor economic prospects of some of the prospective members. Because of the resistance to enlarging the European Union, a term exists that we refer to as enlargement fatigue, that they have just gotten tired of the ever-increasing size of the EU.